Welcome back to The Unlicensed Therapist. I'm your host, Matthew Grimm, and today we're going to bring everything together. If episodes 4 and 5 were about understanding your identity and exploring the gallery of therapist vibes, today it's about applying all of it to a single client. Because here's the truth, you don't really know your identity until you're in the room with someone who needs you. So today we're going to meet Alex. Now, Alex is a composite client, meaning he's made up of many real experiences, but he's not a real person. He's a safe way for us to explore how different therapeutic identities shape the same moment. We're going to learn about Alex, and we're going to go through that gallery and explore how each of those 10 identities may engage in their own unique way with him. And by the end of this episode, you'll understand something essential. There is no one way to help someone. There's only the way that fits you, your client, and the moment you're in. Let's paint the picture. Who is Alex? Alex is 32 years old. He works in a mid-level position at a technology company. He's smart, creative, deeply committed to doing good work. But he's also exhausted, burned out, frustrated, and lately he's been furious with his boss. He comes into session saying, "My boss is out to get me, and I swear he's trying to make me look incompetent." Now, here's what we know about Alex. He has a history of inconsistent caregiving growing up. He's neurodivergent, ADHD, with a side of rejection sensitivity and sensory overwhelm. He's been through a few traumatic experiences, including workplace bullying in a previous job. He is brilliant at pattern recognition and struggles with emotional regulation. He masks heavily at work, and he's terrified of being seen as quote unquote difficult. So when Alex says, "My boss is out to get me," he's not just talking about his boss. He's talking about every moment in his life where he felt powerless, misunderstood, or unsafe. And depending on your therapeutic identity, you're going to hear that sentence in 10 completely different ways. Let us return to that gallery of therapist identities, that gallery of therapist vibes, and walk through it together and explore. Imagine how each identity might tackle this situation in session through a small snippet and gain a small idea of how that session might successfully unfold for each of these identities. Number one, we start with the thought detective, that CBT and DBT cognitive therapist. When you're in that role and Alex comes into the door and you hear those words, "My boss is out to get me," you may lean forward and say, "Alex, let's look at the thought, 'My boss is out to get me.' What's the evidence for and against that?" Together, you may process through what is factual, what is based purely out of emotion. You may even be able to follow up with, what emotion shows up when you think that your boss is out to get you? Which, in the perfect world, allows Alex to elicit what he is feeling. He may say that he feels shame, that he feels scared, he feels angry, or perhaps I feel angry and scared. In those moments, you're helping Alex separate thoughts from facts. You're giving him structure. You're helping him to regulate. The psychodynamic, the attachment therapist, the pattern finder. You hear those words and you soften your voice. You say, who else in your life made you feel this powerless? Is this boss actually your father in a different suit? You allow Alex to sit with that, process that information, discuss it. You may come to a point where you're able to follow up with, what does this dynamic remind you of? Which hopefully will allow Alex to reveal that this relationship feels similar. You're helping him to explore the blueprint beneath the reactions, where previously you were looking at how he was looking at the situation, the thoughts. This time, in this identity, you're looking at all the relationships in his past that has brought him to this and what they have taught him. If you're the story editor, the narrative therapist, and Alex comes in, my boss is out to get me, you tilt your head and you say, when did the spirit of injustice first start following you into the office? This starts a totally different conversation. It catches Alex off guard. We're not talking about his boss, we're talking about the spirit of injustice, and we're externalizing what's going on so that we can just talk about the issue at hand. Perhaps through this back and forth conversation, you're able to follow up with, if that spirit could talk, what would it say? And Alex hopefully would be able to respond that it would say, I'm not safe. Through narrative therapy, through this approach, we're able to externalize the problem and reduce shame. The Boardroom Moderator, or IFS therapist, hears those words and gently leans forward. Can we talk to the part of you that wants to scream? What is it trying to protect you from? This allows Alex to search the different parts of himself, discuss with you what each of those roles are doing in different aspects of his life. Maybe you're able to follow up with, what does that part need from us right now? Which would then allow Alex to convey something such as, it needs someone to take it seriously. In that moment, you're honoring the protective system. You're allowing Alex to express in his own way that he needs to be heard and he needs to be taken seriously. The body-wise guard, or the somatic and polyvagal therapist, hears, my boss is out to get me. And you slow everything down. You look at Alex and you take in what's going on in his body. Notice your jaw tightening. If that tension had a voice, what would it say? This allows Alex to become aware of what his body is telling him. He explores what that tension in his jaw might say, and it gives you the opportunity, once he starts to take a step or to down in the de-escalation process to follow up with, let's take a deep breath and see what shifts. Helping him to de-escalate even further and come to the realization that I didn't even know I was that tense. You're helping Alex to regulate from the bottom up. The therapist, that is the existentialist, the meaning seeker, hears those words out of Alex's mouth and leans back. They ask, what does this anger tell us about what you value most in a workplace? So now, instead of looking at the relationship, the thought pattern, what the body is telling, or anything else, what do you want in the workplace? It allows Alex to open up and talk frankly about what he wants in that specific environment, in that situation, which may bleed out into other situations. It may allow you to follow up with, what does this moment reveal about the kind of person you want to be? It may allow Alex to respond with, I want to feel respected. Using this identity, you're helping Alex find purpose in his pain. The strength spotter or the solution-focused therapist hears that Alex's boss is out to get him, and you brighten your tone. Tell me about a day you felt respected at work. What were you doing differently then? This shifts totally away from the negativity to positivity. It allows Alex to focus on a time when he was doing something positive, maybe was receiving positive praise, so that you can circle back around with, what's one small step you can take tomorrow to move toward that feeling? Alex may respond with, after comparing the two scenarios, I could set a boundary. In that situation, you're building hope and competence. The reality therapist or the choice maker hears those words come from Alex, and they say, yelling didn't work. What is one thing you can do tomorrow that moves you toward a promotion? You're focusing on the positive, on what can move Alex into a better place. You may follow up with, is your current behavior getting you what you want? Alex may respond yes. He may respond no. We're empowering agency without shame within Alex. The systems architect or the family systems therapist hears those words, my boss is out to get me. You take in the big picture view. How does your boss's behavior fit into the unspoken rules of this company's culture? Instead of looking at one thing, you're looking at the culture of the company itself, just as you would look at the culture of the family, the culture of society. You view it all in a very similar way. This helps you to move Alex through to ask him, what role is he being pushed into? So that Alex can process and let us know that maybe I always end up being the fixer. That can allow continued discussion on, is that the role he wants to play? If there's a different role he wants to play, how can he or what can he do to get into that role? Using this identity, You're mapping the systems around him. Finally, we come to the culture bridge, or the multicultural and liberation psychology therapist. When Alex says that his boss is out to get him, you name what every other therapist identity so far has avoided. Let's acknowledge that your boss holds more privilege than you. How does that power dynamic affect your stress? Not only are you focusing on power dynamics, you're focusing on the stress. It allows you, after some conversation, to ask Alex, what would justice look like for you in this situation? You're opening up a door that perhaps he's never had open before. He gets to let out an idea, feeling, thought that I've never been allowed to say that out loud. You're validating his lived experiences in systematic trauma. So, how do you choose which identity to use with Alex? Let me pose an even better question. How do you choose which identities to use with Alex? We know that there are times where someone may need to work through one thing, but often there are multiple things someone may need to work through. Why should we use one tactic to go through multiple obstacles when we have so many tools in our tool belt? But the question still comes, how do we choose which tool to use? You listen. You watch. You're aware of how you feel. What does this make you feel like? If Alex is dysregulated, you go somatic. If he's stuck in a story, you go narrative. If he's overwhelmed, you go solution-focused. If he's repeating a childhood pattern, you go psychodynamic. If he's spiraling in thoughts, you go CBT. If he's fragmented, you go IFS. If he's existentially lost, you go meaning seeker. If he's trapped in a system, you go systems or multicultural. You may even use an identity that hasn't been covered today. Your identity isn't a script, it's a compass. Your counseling identity is not about choosing one of these 10. It's about knowing which one to step into when the moment calls for it. Your identity is the sum of your instincts, your training, your personality, your lived experiences, and your willingness to stay curious. Your homework for this week. With the permission of one of your clients, record yourself in session. Listen back and ask yourself, which identity or identities showed up in that session? Ask your supervisor, which identity or identities do you see in me? And most importantly, notice which identity feels like home. Thank you for joining me for this 3-part deep dive. Next week, we're shifting gears, and we're going to talk about the reality gap. The difference between what we learn in the classroom and what we actually do in the therapy room. Until then, remember, we're all unlicensed until we find our voice. See you next time.